South Asia Today, a show that provides you glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra. Let's begin with the headlines first. Stranded tunnel workers rescued after 17 days ordeal, families relief. Sri Lanka attempts to build climate change resilience while navigating its financial crisis. And International Buddhist Confederation held in New Delhi, monks from 26 countries joined the meeting. Let's begin the show. The heroic rescue operation that freed 41 stranded labourers in Uttarakhand, a state in northern India, comes to the end. Since November 12, 41 labourers had been stranded inside Uttarkashi's Silkyara tunnel. Nationwide recognition was bestowed upon rescuers for their significant contribution to the successful operation. The families of rescue tunnel workers were relieved and expressed their gratitude towards rescue team. Take a look.
In a heroic rescue operation in the Indian state of Uttarakhand, Indian rescuers finally pulled out the first of 41 construction workers trapped inside a collapsed tunnel in the Himalayas. After hours of drilling through the debris of rock, concrete and earth for days and nights, 41 miners were evacuated to safety, ending an ordeal that began on November 12 when the tunnel caved in. Pushkar Singh Dhami, the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, along with the Minister of State of Road Transport and Highways, retired General V.K. Singh, joyously embraced the rescued miners as they rose to sight at the mouth of the tunnel. In the morning, the 41 workers were airlifted to India's premier All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIIMS, in northern Rishikesh city for medical examination.
फिजिकली देखने से तो सारे फिट और खुश हैं, उनको कोई मानसिक इस तरीके का दबाव दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है, लेकिन फिर भी हमने साइकेट्रिस्ट की टीम और इंटरनल मेडिसिन के डॉक्टर्स की टीम है जो अभी उनका जो इनिशियल जो है एग्जामिनेशन करेंगे, उसके बाद इवैल्यूएशन होगा, उनका ब्लड इन्वेस्टिगेशन, चेस्ट एक्सरे जो भी रिक्वायर्ड जो हमारे डॉक्टर्स को लगेगा तो उनका एग्जामिनेशन किया जाएगा. उसके बाद डिसाइड करेंगे कि किनको ऑब्जर्वेशन की ज़रूरत है या डिस्चार्ज की.
Families of rescued Indian tunnel workers were relieved and expressed their gratitude towards rescue officials as their loved ones beat all odds and returned after spending a harrowing 17 days in a tunnel. The family members and relatives took a sigh of relief and were overwhelmed with the news of their dear ones being evacuated to safety.
बहुत खुश, धन्यवाद, बहुत खुश हैं हम लोग. हमारे लिए वही भगवान खड़ा हो गया, भगवान हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छा करें लोग.
वहाँ से फ़ोन आया कि आदमी निकल चुका है, बस निकल चुके हैं. मेरा पति तुरंत फ़ोन लगाया, बस यहाँ गोला पटाखा दगने लगा. दिवाली मनाने खुशी सबको एकजुटा.
The Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami hosted a grand celebration on the return of the tunnel workers rescued after 17 days at his residence the other day. The 41 workers were greeted by Dhami, who was seen dancing and celebrating with them. Dhami gave workers relief checks worth 1 lakh rupees each.
वो सारे के सारे जैसे ही पाइप दिखा क्रॉलिंग करके अब दौड़ते हुए और बिल्कुल खुश हमारे बीच में पहुंचे और ऐसा लगा कि आज ही इगास है, आज ही दिवाली है, आज ही जो है हमारे गोवर्धन पूजा है, आज ही हमारी छठ पूजा है, आज ही हमारा कार्तिक पूर्णिमा है, आज ही हमारा गुरु पर्व है. सारे पर्व जो है कल भगवान की कृपा से सामने आए.
The rescue operation was hindered by a series of snags but was completed after rescuers broke through the debris in the tunnel. The authorities have not yet ascertained what caused the cave-in, but the region is prone to landslides, earthquakes and floods.
Let's now move to Sri Lanka, which is attempting to build climate change resilience while navigating its worst financial crisis in decades. Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that Colombo will focus on green financing tools, including debt for nature swaps, as it attempts to reach the net zero target. Wickremesinghe has also said that island nation needs $100 billion to become a net zero emitter by 2040. A report. Greenhouse gases increase global temperatures by trapping extra energy in the Earth's atmosphere. The United Nations had called for countries to advance their net zero goals in order to prevent the growing climate disaster. Net zero means no longer adding to the total amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The island nation, Sri Lanka, is also attempting to build climate change resilience while navigating its worst financial crisis in decades. Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that Colombo will focus on green financing tools, including debt for nature swaps, as it attempts to reach the net zero target. Wickremesinghe has said that Sri Lanka needs $100 billion to become a net zero emitter by 2040.
Green finances, we are into it, which includes debt for nature swaps. But we will also have to find a fair amount of investments if Sri Lanka is to achieve its targets, and we are trying to go in for net zero, if possible by 2040. If you can find the money, we require about $100 billion over this period. Some will come from investors who are interested in it, and I think we have an early start compared to others, and we'll be inviting foreign investments. Rest, let's hope our economy is picked up and we have sufficient money to put into it.
President Wickremesinghe has announced plans for a new committee and an energy transition law. The proposed committee and new legislation, according to a statement from the President's office, demonstrate a commitment to a comprehensive decision-making process for new energy projects. India and Sri Lanka signed 6 energy agreements recently, including the construction of an oil pipeline between the two countries, electricity grid interconnections, and cooperation in the renewable energy sector. India is already connected to Bangladesh and Nepal via power transmission lines, and hence the same model can work with Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka will be able to take advantage of India's low-cost oil sourcing and processing, and will be able to pay for the oil in rupees, thus alleviating its balance of payments crisis.
We feel that Sri Lanka has potential for export of renewable energy. We are having connectivity with India for this purpose, but there also seems to be a lot of excess capacity as far as green hydrogen is concerned. We are working on it. I think we can easily be an exporter of green hydrogen.
At the UN Climate Summit, which is being held in Dubai from 30th November to December 12th, Sri Lanka will present 2 regional proposals. The country hopes that these will center on connecting nations in the tropical belt to work together to combat climate change and promote the Indian Ocean as carbon sink. By 2050, it's predicted that nearly 19 million Sri Lankans could reside in regions that could develop into moderate or severe hotspots for floods or droughts. And now, we take a look at some happenings in Asia in our segment called Asia Watch.
The foreign ministers of China, Japan and South Korea met in the port city of Busan on November 26, seeking to restart cooperation among the Asian neighbors and pave the way for a summit of their 3 leaders. China's top diplomat Wang Yi said the 3 countries should play an active role in promoting regional and global development with a more progressive manner and attitude. Japan's Yoko Kamikawa said greater trilateral cooperation will contribute to regional peace. as the international security situation has become more severe and complex than ever. The three top diplomats met in Busan for their first such meeting since 2019, after officials of the three countries had agreed in September to arrange a trilateral summit at the earliest convenient time. The officials would work to ensure the summit of the leaders of the three nations was held as soon as possible, Park said. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo on November 9 inaugurated a 192-megawatt peak floating solar power plant on a reservoir in West Java province, the largest in Southeast Asia, as part of a drive to increase renewable energy sources and switch away from coal. The $108.70 million project was developed by PLN Nusantara Power, a unit of Indonesia's state utility company Perusahaan Listrik Negara, and United Arab Emirates Renewable Energy Company Masdar, a unit of Mubadala Investment Company. The solar power infrastructure built on Kirata Reservoir, 108 kilometers southeast of Indonesia capital Jakarta, is the third largest floating solar plant in the world. Renewable energy accounted for 12.3% of Indonesia's energy mix in 2022, and Jokowi said that the target of 23% by 2025 would probably be missed.
The residents of mountainous region in the illegally occupied Gilgit-Baltistan are gripped with fear of natural disasters, as the major glaciers in the region are melting away at a much faster rate than before. The danger of floods looms large in the villages surrounding glaciers. The rapid deforestation to sustain Pakistan's infrastructure project is the prime cause of drastic change in climatic conditions. The local administration shows no concern towards environmental degradation in Gilgit-Baltistan. The residents complain they receive no funds from the proxy administration of Pakistan after last year's devastating flood. We have a report.
The danger of natural disasters is looming large in the mountainous regions of Gilgit-Baltistan. Owing to rapid deforestation to sustain Pakistan's several infrastructure projects, there has been a drastic change in the climatic conditions of Gilgit-Baltistan. The glaciers are melting at a pace never before, raising threats of glacial lake outburst floods for the villagers living in surrounding areas. Tariq Jamil, a local community leader who has been monitoring the change in glaciers, is wary of floods in his village, where around 200 families are surviving.
इसकी वजह से बनने वाली झील के वजह से हमने हसनाबाद गांव को गुज़श्ता 5 सालों में शदीद नुकसानात भी हुए और इस झील के बनने के बाद कम्युनिटी को शुरू के सालों में बहुत ज़्यादा दुश्वारियां थी, चूँकि मॉनिटरिंग का जो ज़िम्मेदारी थी शुरू के 1-2 साल में कम्युनिटी को दी गई थी कि चूँकि बाहर के लोगों को इतना इल्म भी नहीं था इस एरिया के बारे में, हम लोग वीकली कभी कभार डेली बेस पे भी आते थे झील को मॉनिटर करने के लिए।
When glacial lakes overfill or their banks become weak, the overwhelmed lakes burst into deadly floods, wiping out bridges, buildings, and fertile lands in their way. Over the past 3 years, residents repeatedly evacuated just in time to avoid loss of life, and many fear a flood while they sleep. Others struggle financially as their land and homes were destroyed, most recently in 2022. Zahra Ramzan in a nearby Chalt village had a close call when a torrent of black water rushed down the valley, sweeping away his 11-year-old son Ali Muhammad. Ramzan gets nervous whenever there is heavy rain or flooding, refusing to allow her surviving children out of sight.
amitang ke asmani phatan dim ke tete mulujar buta afsos me bile ko khub to da akilon mani da mena olader mani no sojara but taklif ar me bile da ja olad amlir nimen ke amli besan manu mani jar but tension me bile ke da hik akilon mani ne je but khaw bulu da washaba.
Pakistan is the only country to receive adaptation funding from the Green Climate Fund, the Paris Agreement's key financing pot to ease the risk of such floods in Gilgit-Baltistan. However, the residents of this village in the illegally occupied territory have received no funding for rehabilitation or help from Pakistan's proxy administration. People like Tariq Jamil are the only concerned individuals who have been taking care of the environment and joined the UN-backed Glacier Lake Outburst Flood GLOF 2nd project to help communities downstream. But his daughter often gets worried about the future and fears if someday they would be cut off from their house due to floods.
We had a great attachment at this house for 50 to 100 years. If the disaster cut off this house, that we will shift to another place, that we will become very sad.
Darkut is another village that sits surrounded by mountains and glaciers. Muhammad Yasin, an environmental sciences graduate researcher at Karakoram International University, is studying the extent to which Darkut Glacier is melting. He reveals his fears and premonitions concerning Darkut Lake formed in the soil and rock landscape by the receding glacier.
फ्यूचर प्रेडिक्शन ये है कि ये ग्लेशियर जो है ना मज़ीद पीछे चले जाएगा और ये जो झील जिसे जो है ना दरकुत ग्लेशियर झील कहा जाता है, यह हर साल इसकी जो है विड्थ और इसकी जो है डेप्थ में इजाफा होता रहता है। थ्रेट ये है कि डाउन स्ट्रीम कम्युनिटीज़ के लिए ये झील जो है ना बढ़ने की वजह से गर्मियों के मौसम में जो है ये फटने का ख़तरा है और ब्रस्ट होने का ख़तरा है और डाउन स्ट्रीम जो पॉपुलेशन है वो 2010 और 2078 की तरह इफेक्टेड हो सकते हैं।
Drastic climate change and melting glaciers in recent times pose a great threat to the villages residing in the mountainous regions of Gilgit-Baltistan. In absence of any rehabilitation plans from the local administration, their lives are hanging on the edge. More glacial floods in these areas could wipe out their homes and livelihoods completely.
Buddhism is not just a religion, but a way of living that guides humanity towards a more compassionate and interconnected world. Today in our show, we'll give you a glimpse of the recently held General Assembly meeting of the International Buddhist Confederation (IBC) held in India's capital New Delhi, which was joined by monks from across 26 countries. Let's take a look. The diversity of India is its speciality, whether it be cultural, regional, linguistic or religious diversity. All these together make India stand out from the rest of the world, wherein religions play a pivotal role in guiding humanity towards a more compassionate, mindful and interconnected world. Buddhism is one such fastest growing religion in India, which is striving to guide mankind and the world with its noble thoughts and ideas to attain enlightenment in the face of contemporary challenges. Buddhism was founded by Siddhartha Gautam, also called Buddha, in India over 2500 years ago. Gautam Buddha was born in 623 BC in the Lumbini province of southern Nepal. In the search for the answers to his problems of suffering, Buddha dwelled in many places and eventually got enlightenment underneath the Bodhi tree in Gaya in India's Bihar state. In a bid to carry on Buddha's legacy, recently the International Buddhist Confederation (IBC), a global Buddhist platform, carried out its General Assembly meeting in New Delhi, which was joined by senior monks from across 26 countries.
Buddhism is an Indian tradition, an Indian religion, an Indian philosophical tradition, we could say. The teachings that they have conveyed in America have all come from Lord Buddha, who came from India.
Buddhism is one of the world's oldest religions with a rich history and tradition and has traveled to many countries so far, such as Myanmar, Mongolia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand and China. As Buddhism traveled, it adopted the values and traditions of the countries within itself as well as its original essence, and which is why today we see sects like the Theravada, Mahayana, Hinayas and the Vajrayana. The IBC in a way amplifies Buddhism thoughts and their integrated perspectives to maintain peace and harmony by bringing both Buddhist and non-Buddhist organizations together.
The world that we are living now, is very complex. There is a lot of violence. We live in very difficult times. But we have an advantage that the Buddha's teachings are universal. And so we need to take what is universal from the Buddha's teachings and bring this to different parts of the world and teach people. One of the principles of Buddhism is non-violence.
Buddhists believe that the universe is governed by natural laws and the only way to attain nirvana or enlightenment is kindness, generosity and forgiveness. Though Buddha's principle of non-violence always remains the core part of the goal of Buddhism.
I see Buddhism connecting me with my country, which is, I'm German, but I live in the UK at the moment. I see it connecting me that a philosophy that originated in India has changed my life as a German, means that Buddhism is something that can apply and improve the quality of life and the life of every human being on earth. Buddhism has so much to teach us. We have the concept of wisdom and compassion as the two legs on which Buddhism stands.
The two-day IBC event brought together patriarchs of Buddhist sanghs, senior monks and the Dhamma practitioners from across the world who have been associated with IBC since its founding days. The event was aimed at electing offices bearers of the world body for the next 3 years.
The General Assembly is a very important body. As you know, the International Buddhist Confederation is an international organization. So we have representatives from different countries, about 39 countries, 300 organizations, in order to enable them to have a participatory role and a sense of belonging to IBC, which is our core objective and aim, to bring the entire world, the Buddhist community together. We have formed this General Assembly.
The teachings of Buddhism not only inspire one to follow the path of righteousness, but also give a huge perspective on life and make living easier through its eightfold practices, including right intention, right livelihood, and right effort to attain nirvana, which is enlightenment. Time for me to wrap up today's episode. We'll be back next week at the same time. This is Pratiksha Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.